Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to this EPLAN North American Virtual Fair 2020. And this live presentation is about the topic Master Reporting. My name is Sean Mulheron. I've been with EPLAN since 1993, started with Vischers and Partner in Germany back in the days, and moved to EPLAN US in 2000. And I've been in North America ever since. Since 2013, I've been part of the product management team, and I am now product manager for EPLAN Pre-Planning, EPLAN Electric P8, and EPLAN Fluid. So I will go through this topic of master reporting. One of the challenges today is to be able to manage your data and report the data in a way that people can easily consume that data. So one aspect of creating controls design is the schematics. However, trying to extract data from schematics is always very challenging, and therefore people create different types of reports. Whether you look at today a bill of material is reporting all the parts that are contained within a set of schematics. Or if you look at a terminal diagram, you want to see all of the terminals lined up as you see them in the control cabinet. Or maybe you want to work off of a wire list to be able to wire your cabinet more efficiently. The challenges with these reports when working in CAD environments is that all of the data needs to be re-entered or done through a manual takeoff from the schematics into another tool that can kind of list that in a report that can be usable. This is where EPLAN comes in, and through the use of a database, because EPLAN is a database-driven system, meaning that we don't work on one page and one file at a time. We work on an entire project with multiple pages and with hundreds, if not thousands, of objects. EPLAN can also take those objects and report those objects in various different shapes, ways, and forms that can be useful and can be consumed a lot more easily by the various different members of a project team or even of the manufacturing facility. So let's take a look at a couple of topics. So automatic reporting in the platform is just a default functionality, and we have over 45 different types of reports available to the user at any given time in the platform. Mind you, some of those reports might be specific to an element or to a module. For example, we have reports to lay out all of your cable trays and knowing, for example, which cables are in a cable tray, but you would need the FieldSys module to be able to take advantage of those reports. So certain reports are tied to modules, but most of the reports are available for all of the functions in EPLAN. So these reports are, one, automatically generated by the system and also fully customizable, so that if a user wants to modify the columns or the information that's presented in those reports, he has full access to a form editor that provides him with editability for those forms. Provides great time saving. Again, if you had to manually type in a bill of material and kind of calculate or count all of the quantities within a particular project, that would take a certain amount of time. In EPLAN, a click of a button is all you need. It also provides a clear and accurate structure of the information for enclosures or even control systems, which is done by the system. So the other benefit is that if there is an error in the report is generated based on the schematics. So if you have a problem with your report, you can go back to the schematics, fix the schematics, and re-export or regenerate the report, which means that you can improve the quality of your schematics and make sure that you minimize the mistakes in the schematics as well. So you can also consolidate lists of connection information without having to navigate the schematics, meaning that the reports can then be consumed by themselves without needing to have the schematics at hand to be able to perform certain tasks. So let's take a look at some of the reports, such as assembly reports. They include title pages, table of contents, various different overviews. You have terminal diagrams, cable diagrams, connection lists that are included in this cable report environment. Title pages are front pages. Front pages are kind of in, interesting information about the entire control system. You can enter pictures in there. You can also put QR codes. But most importantly, you can visualize project data. So the metadata of your project can be displayed here. And you don't have to manually type that in. It's based on the information that you have stored in your project. So this can be automatically displayed and adjusted. Various different types of title sheets can be created. Here you can add your wiring regulations, material regulations, or even certain safety regulations if you want to your projects. Again, automatically creating lists and page informations and project informations without having to re-enter the data. So again, you enter the data once for the project and you can report it out in your title pages. Here you have a table of content report where you can actually group pages. So in this case, you group them by functions, and you can also group them by document types. You can group them by location. So if you want all of your pages specific to a cabinet or a control cabinet grouped together, you can also organize your table of contents that way. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in how your table of content is going to look. You can also combine a cover sheet, like a title sheet, and also a table of contents. So you can mix and match different types of forms where you can have a static form combined with a dynamic form as well to present the information in a much better way. So the structure overview, this is a report that allows you to show all of your locations and functions. So in this case, it's kind of a table of content of your structure. Here you see all of the functions in a project. You see all of your locations. For example, A1 is your enclosure 1, A2 enclosure 2, A3 is your control panel, and so on. So it's easily to visualize what structure you're using in your project. This can easily be used as a legend up front in your project as well. Symbol overviews. Symbol overviews are very useful because if you look at the NFPA 79, it states any electrical symbol not included in the IEEE 315 standard shall be separately shown and described on the diagrams. This description on the diagrams is basically a legend. So using the symbol overview, you could generate a legend of all the symbols used in your project. And this could look something like this, where the system can report out what symbols are used in your project and can describe those symbols, identifying what they are. So it really makes easy to document the symbology used in a project. Terminal diagrams. Terminal diagrams are used to identify all of your terminals that are part of a terminal strip. These can be scattered around from page to page, and it's very nice to see a consolidated view of those terminal diagrams so you can visualize how they're wired and how they're connected. So it makes the documentation very useful for panel builders if they want to build their or assemble their terminal strips. Here you've got some examples of terminal diagrams, how the terminals are displayed, and also what is connected to the terminal. So you see the wire coming in on the left side, you see the wire going out on the right side, and it really shows information on how to wire the particular terminal strip. So you've probably seen these types of terminal strips in your enclosure. Well, the documentation will show you exactly which terminal, which label, and which wire needs to be connected to those terminal strips. Terminal lineup diagram is another type of report that allows you to see how the terminal diagram is put together. You know exactly which part number, so it'll show you not only the order, but also which part number is to be used, and it'll show you which cross section is supposed to be defined, and also the label. It'll tell you what type of end mount is on that terminal diagram, what label is there, and all of the accessories. If you have part separate or partition plates or set terminal separators, all of those are also listed in this terminal lineup diagram. So the lineup diagram is more of a hardware-oriented view of your terminal strip versus the terminal diagram, which is more connected-oriented view of your terminal strip. Plug diagrams. Plug diagrams are similar to terminal diagrams, except that they focus on the plug. So every plug in your project or in your system will be listed, and each pin of each plug will be listed, so you can see exactly which pin is the male pin, which pin is the female pin, and what wires and what targets are connected to each one of those pins. So those are really nice reports to manage the connectivity of your plugs. Cable diagrams. Cable diagrams report out the cables, but not just the cable, also each individual conductor within that cable. And it will show you which wires are connected to what in that cable. So you'll have a view of your cable as a name. You'll see the name of the cable, the type of cable, the manufacturer, and the information. And then you'll see each individual conductor listed out, and you'll see what is connected on one side of that conductor and what is connected on the other side of that conductor. So it's really nice to get not only an overview of the cables, but also to see the individual conductors and how these are connected. Cable assignment diagrams are used to show the exact configuration of a particular cable. Here we have an RJ45, for example, and this RJ45, it shows you what type of, or how do you lay it out, what type of cable it is. It'll show you each individual wire, how they're connected from a graphical perspective. But then it will create a table and tell you how often this cable is used, what is the cable name, where is it connected from, where is it connected to. So all of this information is auto-generated. Connection list is your wire list. So it will list every connection in your project, and it'll show you the color of the connection. It'll show you the type of connection. It'll show you the gauge, the label that to be put on it, the source, and the target. And that will all be listed in a graphical report, easily viewable and easily understandable. So it helps in conjunction with ProPanel to maybe wire off of a wire list instead of wiring off the schematics. Article reports are reports that summarize your parts or identify parts. So anything that has to do with parts list, summarized parts list, manufacturer list, and module overviews are typical reports found in article reports. So a parts list is a part view individually listed. So if you have, for example, a fuse or part number of a fuse, and this part number is listed, is used 5 times in the project, you'll see 5 lines of that part, and you'll see each individual device and the label of the tag and so on that's used for that part. So they don't summarize the quantities. If you want to use a summarized part list, now you'll see each part number, but you'll have a quantity summarized of how many times that part is being used in the project. And you can, of course, list all of the tags that are applied to that particular part. So 2 different types of reports, depending on what your requirements are. Here we've got a manufacturer supply list to identify all of your supplies and manufacturers used in your project with addresses and phone numbers to contact if needed. Then we have these graphical reports. Graphical reports are multi-layer reports. Multi-layer reports meaning that it doesn't just show one target, it shows multiple targets in a connectivity aspect. So these consist of device connection diagrams, terminals, plugs, and cables, and they represent different ways of showing the information. This is a view of a device connection diagram. On the right-hand side, you can see you have your device, and you have a connection to the first level, which is in cases your terminal strip X1, and then it's going down to a second level to the next device that's connected through there. So it helps if you have multiple different junction boxes. You can see your sensor, and you can see, for example, your DCS cabinet, and you can see the multiple levels where that device is going through or how the connectivity is done. On the left-hand side, you can also use the device connection diagram as a wiring diagram. A wiring diagram focuses on the device, looks at the connection points, and for each connection point shows you exactly which wire is connected to it and where is that wire going to. So the wiring diagram is a fairly often used diagram here in North America, and you could generate this automatically using EPLAN and using a device connection diagram to show each connection and all the wires connected to those particular connections. Terminal connection diagram focuses on the terminal and the terminal strip, and it goes up or down depending on the direction or the levels you want to see. And you can see you go through a different terminal strip and then you land on your emergency push button here, for example. Cable connection diagram is the same thing as a terminal connection diagram, except that it focuses on the cable. So now the cable is the center of the report, and you can see what information goes up and down from that particular cable. So the motor is connected through the cable to the plug, and the plug is connected to another cable to the terminal diagram up top. And then finally, the plug connection diagram shows you how plugs are connected through multiple levels, and you can see also the cables are kind of combined together, and it really gives you a lot of detail as to the source and the target going through those plugs. Overview reports. Overview reports are really useful to kind of list a general view of certain devices, such as cable, terminal strips, plugs, and potentials in this case. Terminal strips, you can view the terminal strip and how many terminals it has, how many ground terminals, how many end terminals, but it doesn't detail each individual terminal in that strip. It just shows you the terminal strip. So if you have multiple different junction boxes, multiple different terminal strips, it's a very nice overview to have. Same thing with plugs. If you have a plug on this, or if you have multiple different plugs on the side of your control cabinet, and you want to have a list of all the plugs that are being used, then you can easily list them in an overview instead of looking at each detail of the pins associated to those plugs. So things like cable schedules on a cable overview would be a report created here. So here you can see a cable overview with the cable name, the source, the target, the cable type, how many conductors, the cross section, the length, the function text. And here's a cable schedule, and a cable schedule is exactly the same information. You have the number of the cable, you have the source, the target, and what the purpose of that cable is with the cable type and all that. So these can be easily listed out of your project in one report or multiple page report. Terminal strip overview, as I mentioned, it shows the terminal strip. So you have the terminal strip designation, and then it shows you what the purpose of that strip is, how many, what's the first terminal, the last terminal, how many terminals in total it has, and it gives you kind of an overview of the terminal strips. Plug overview is the same thing, but focusing on the plug. And potential overview will list all of the potentials you have in your project and give you information on what the technical details are associated with that. So let's jump through the PowerPoint presentation and let's take a look at what this looks like in EPLAN. So in EPLAN, we have our project or our software. Here's our project, and if we go to our project properties, we can view certain types of information. For example, in the statistics, I can see how many pages were created manually, and I can also see how many reports were generated in the project. I can see the total number of pages and also the number of 3D models I have in here. So here you can see I've got 15 cable diagrams, I've got 2 panel layout pages, I've got 5 overview pages, and I can get a quick view on the reports that were generated in this project. So to generate reports, you have a central aspect, which is here under Utilities, Reports, and Generate. And you can specify, as I mentioned, up to 40 or over 45 different types of reports, from a cable diagram to an enclosure legend to a plug overview. So let's generate a report, and this would be my wiring diagram. Let's start with that. Not wiring, sorry, my wire list. Select the connection list. I can filter my connection list, I can sort my connections, but I'm just going to generate it. And now the system is going to ask me, where do you want to place it? So you can put it in a certain area. I'm going to put it here, for example, under documentation, and I'm going to start with page number 20. So now the system collects all of the wires throughout my schematics in my project and will list them as a report that I can then visualize. As you can see, what do we have? 23 pages of projects. We probably have hundreds of different wires. The report generation is actually very quick. So now you can see here, if I double click on this particular report, so it created, what is it, 10 pages, 10, 12 pages, and here are my wires. So if I zoom in a particular area here, you can see the source of my wire. So the location, which is the mounting panel, the device connection, you see the wire label, the color of the wire, the length of the wire, the gauge, and you can also see the target. So it makes it really easy to wire those connections. And you have little boxes here, so if you print it out, you could actually put a check mark, say, hey, I've wired this one, I've wired this one, I've wired this one. So you can use that as a troubleshooting tool or as a wiring tool for your control cabinet. So again, various different types of connections, and each, as I mentioned, all of these graphics can be customized, the layout can be customized, the information can also be customized. I'm going to generate a new report. This time I'm going to generate a table of content. So under new, I'm going to select table of content, and I'm going to put it here in my document. So if I go to my document area, oh, no, it's here. So my table of contents is located here. So you can see grouped by document type. So cable reports, what page name, what description, single line, where are they, multi-line schematic. So everything is organized. Very easy for a user to find and read. Additional reports such as bill of materials. I'm going to generate a bill of materials. So I'm going to select a new report, summarize parts list. And this bill of material captures all of the parts that I created in my project and lists them. So here's my bill of material. And depending on the information I have, you can see I've got the part number, I've got the manufacturer, I've got a description, and I've got some additional information associated. You can see all the quantities, and this information can easily be used. So again, customizable. You can do multiple columns, you can do one report, you can make it thinner, you can make it wider. That's really up to the user to define. Let's go into the project itself, and in the main control panel, I'm going to go to my control panel layout here, and here's a report which is from my 3D model. It shows me the backplate of the cabinet. So let's take a look at this backplate, and this backplate is called number 21. It's my mounting panel view. So I'm going to generate a report right here next to this panel that's going to summarize or give me all of the parts in that cabinet. So utility reports generate. I'm going to create a new report. This report is not going to be placed on a page, but it's going to be manually placed. I'm going to do an enclosure legend. Closure legend. I'm going to do a manual selection. Manual selection is based on the control panel I have. So I want the number 21, which is my panel view. Confirm with OK. And I'm not going to filter anything, and there's my enclosure legend. So I can just drop it in there, and now it'll list all of the parts in my control panel. So you can see that creating legends, creating bill of materials for specific areas of your project is incredibly quick and easy. So if I zoom into here, you can see the part number. This is an auxiliary block, and you can also see all of the devices that are assigned to that part. I can customize that report to maybe not show that information, so we just have one line per part number. Those are all options that are left to the user to decide whether he wants them. Another nice report is the wiring diagram. If we look at a particular drive, I'm going to look at these pages here. I've got a drive on one page. Here I've got a drive system, and let's look at this one here. Here I've got a drive where I split the power section of my drive and I split the control section of my drive. So this could be on a complete different page, but I would like to see all of the wiring information for that particular drive. In this case, I can just generate a wire list or a wiring list. Report, generate. I'm going to select again a new report. I'm going to place it on the page. It's going to be manual placement. I'm going to select a device connection diagram, and I'm going to select that particular device, the VFD 5901. So this is part of my MCP, main control panel, VFD 5901, and hit OK. And now I can filter certain connections if I want to or not. And you can see here, now I've got a report showing me the particular device. I can see the part number used for that device, a description, and I see every single connection associated to that device. I can see which wire is connected to it, what's the gauge, what's the color, and also what's the wire number and the source and the target. So I can see exactly where that wire is going to. So very useful reports to be able to showcase the wiring of a particular device, even though that device has been spread out through multiple different pages. The same is true for terminals. You have here terminal board number 1. You've got 3 terminals here, but you've got multiple different terminals on different sheets. So if you wanted to generate a report for terminal 1, you would simply, again, go to your report center, start your terminal diagram, and you could list all of your terminals specific to main control panel TB1. So MCP1, TB1, generate, and oops, I just hit cancel. So TB1, and bring it across, and OK. So now it created a new, just going to put it again just behind all the other ones. Create a new report, as you can see here, terminal diagram. If I double click on it, now you can see the source, the wire connected to terminal 4604. It's part of the conveyor belt motor station 1, and it's connected on the other side to plug 1 pin number 2. And you even know which page it's located on. So again, quick and easy reports to be generated. These are all graphical reports. Another huge benefit of reporting in EPLAN is the fact that you can take the data and you can generate it externally for further processing. This is done as well under utilities, but not under reports, but manufacturing data. We've got this topic of exporting/labeling. I would like to export my bill of materials to Excel, for example. So I'm going to select this, export it, start application, and generate this bill of material into Excel. So you can use Excel templates, various different layouts. You can choose which information gets put into what column. All of that is completely customizable. And here you can see all of your part numbers. You see the quantities. You see the description, the manufacturer. It's generated directly out of EPLAN. Another report would be, for example, the cable report. So if I go to utilities, reports, or manufacturing data, export, and I want to export my cable overview in Excel, like the cable schedule, and I'm just going to generate it, and you can see all of the cable information is now available in Excel. So because of the nature of EPLAN being a database, now having all of this information automatically being exported or reported fairly easily is really a huge benefit for the user. So here your cable names, here you can see the source of the cable, here you can see the target of the cable, you can see the cable type, and you can also see how many conductors it has and what type of gauge is on that particular cable. So very easy to generate, completely customizable, and extremely useful to the user for further processing. Finally, I'm just going to touch base on, it's a report that's just part of the manufacturing, exporting labeling. It's, for example, for your labels. I would like to export device tag labels. So I can select device tag list. This time it exports it into a text file. And this report can also be used for printing labels on a label printer. So a lot of labels or a lot of printers can manage labels from a text file. So you can create various different file formats, whether you want it to be Excel or CSV or anything like that. So to print out all of your terminal labels, your device labels, your connection labels, all of the available information can be reported automatically from EPLAN. So this kind of concludes our topic of today, which is master reporting, and that allows users to take information from their schematics and report it or put it in certain reports, certain ways, layouts that are easier to consume for a person working on that system and putting that system together. I hope this information was useful, and now I will open up the chat area to questions. Is there a way to change the title, name, or report output? Yes. So if I'm understanding correctly, you're asking maybe the title here of this page description. That can be done in the report itself, meaning that when you go and modify your report, so let's go and just quickly open up a report. And I'm going to open this up. You can automatically have the system designate the title for that particular report, which is here under properties. You have here this format for automatic page description, so that can be generated automatically, or you could even put any type of text that you want in this particular field to have it display here. So that's something that's completely customizable. The other option, I'm not sure if you might have mentioned, might have meant that, is when you go to export your file. So if I go to manufacturing data, export labeling, the target file here, the name of this report, can be completely customized. And the nice thing too is you can actually create this file also by inserting what they call path variables. So you could add the name of the project in there if you wanted to. You could add the project, the directory for the project. You could add the name of the product. You could add the date. You could add the time if you need to. So there's a lot of different variables you can also add to the file name to export it. So every time you export it, the date would change and it would create a new file, for example. So that way you can easily manage those type of outputs. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any more questions, or I don't think we do. So I will conclude this presentation. And if you have any questions, please visit our other booths on the virtual fair. Feel free to chat with our colleagues. They're there to answer any questions or further questions you have. And looking forward to seeing you in the next session. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.